Hello everyone, welcome to Talking Health with Dr. Laz, your favorite health program on television. Reaching you from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. My name is Dr. Laz Eze. Yes, today we are going to be talking about medical education and how we can leverage on technology to improve the quality of medical education. You know that when the quality of anything is not good, when the quality of education is not good, it also reflects on the quality of the products and the quality of the services. So looking at Nigeria, there are more than 40 medical schools that is training medical doctors, and perhaps less number of schools that are training pharmacists, medical laboratory scientists, but even much more number of schools that are training nurses in Nigeria when you put in the universities, the School of Nursing, and all of that. But medical practice is something that the education and the study does not just end in the classroom or during the training at the wards and the clinics, but it's a continuous exercise because as research continues, new information is coming in and new technologies are also being introduced, and continuous medical education is recommended. The Nigerian Medical Association, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, the Midwifery Council, the Medical Laboratory Council, and all these regulatory agencies in the health sector make efforts to encourage the practitioners to continue to educate themselves. And technology has kind of made life much easier. So on the program today, I'll be talking to my first guest from Europe, who have been using technology to improve the quality of medical education around the world, including Africa. I know you can't wait to meet them. I'll introduce them after the break, but don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Talk Health Nigeria TV if you are yet to do so, and watch our previous episodes as many times as you like. It's free of charge. Do stay with us. I'll be right back after this break. Hello, welcome back to Talking Health with Dr. Laz, your favorite health program on television. Yes, my guest will be joining me via Zoom from Germany, and he's Stefan Wisbauer. He's the Co-Chief Executive Officer of Lecturio. Lecturio is a platform that utilizes technology and provides a lot of resources for medical professionals around the world, and built partnership with medical institutions and hospitals, and also hoping to get this accessible to as many persons as possible everywhere in the world. But we'll be talking about the quality of medical education, the role of technology, and how Nigeria can leverage on this, and not just Nigeria, Africa can leverage on technology to improving the quality of education. Hi, Stefan, you're welcome to the program.
Hi, Dr. Laz. Pleasure to speak. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you once again. How is it like at your location?
With regards to, did you ask about COVID or?
Yeah, how is the environment at your location?
So super high incidence. The curves are going crazy like that. But obviously the Omicron variant is a very different beast from before. So the hospitals are doing fine. As a society here, everybody's fed up with COVID, including the politicians. So despite highest ever case numbers, the load in the hospitals isn't so high, but what is causing problems is that so many healthcare workers are infected with COVID as well, that then they have to stay at home, depending on, the rules vary a little bit. In some places, I think they send them into the workplace even if they have COVID now. But because so many are away from the workplace, that is what is causing the pressure on the hospitals now more than the patient load.
Right.
This could, of course, change again. We just had material changes here in Germany. with a new law coming into place at national level, with dropping a lot of the restrictions that we've had. So it'll be an interesting one to watch. But the good news part is, I guess, that it's a lot milder, the Omicron cases, and we're adjusting here, and hopefully we'll adjust in kind of balanced and helpful ways for balancing both the health and the economic well-being of the country and the population.
Well, that's good to know. Of course, COVID has changed the world, and not just in terms of medical services, but also medical education. During the lockdown, schools were locked down here in Nigeria. Medical students stayed at home for months, and of course, the medical services was hugely affected. So, looking at the should I say post-COVID world, COVID is still here, but of course, we now have vaccines, and it's better controlled than it was 2 years ago when the whole world was still, there's still a lot of confusion. So, looking at the medical education around the world, how would you describe the situation and the changes that COVID-19 has brought into the space, and the advancement that technology, the solutions that technology has brought into the context?
Yeah. Well, certainly post-COVID arrival, a lot of things have changed. As you say, it's not over as such, and different countries deal with it quite differently. The Chinese are already worried about 5,000 cases. In Germany alone, with a much smaller population, we have 200,000 plus cases a day these days, and we're opening up. But what COVID definitely has done is that it's caused this rapid shift to online teaching. But the way we talk about it when we hold our webinars, which you're welcome to come visit, and also watch recordings of, we tend to call what's happened in most places emergency remote teaching. By that we mean, let's just do what we did and let's do it on Zoom. And that obviously, in terms of didactic optimization, is unlikely to be optimal. And if we talk about the state of medical education around the world, then obviously in almost all countries, medical education is the most highly regulated part of education, and rightly so, right? At the same time, being so highly regulated also means that you tend to have a slower pace of innovation. So if you look at the US regulator, for example, the LCME, and their historic attitudes to online training, they were very antiquated and changing very, very slowly. And then actually a few years before COVID started to put out papers that a certain different kind of integration of online components was even legitimate as an interest, so to say. Interesting also, if you look at the WFME, the World Federation for Medical Education, they recently, during COVID now, brought out new guidelines for distance education. So the distance part is becoming much more, how shall I say, so I think people's minds have been opened about it. And they've realized that it's surprising how much and how fast you can go online. But as I said before, in many ways, emergency remote teaching in didactically suboptimal ways, but frankly, much of medical education happens in didactically suboptimal ways. If you think about medicine, then, pretty much around the world, whether it's in allied health sciences, nursing, or medicine, we teach evidence-based medicine in terms of the substance of what we teach, right? If we look at how we teach it, though, much of the teaching as such is not evidence-based, because sort of a 1 hour kind of broadcast lecture style way of transmitting information to learners is not very optimal according to learning science principles, but it's still a very dominant component. And then you just shift that component online, doesn't make it any better in terms of learning science. And if you look at the reality of the teaching setups, then and this is not specific to medicine as such, same in engineering and elsewhere, the experts that are teaching are engineers or doctors and nurses, and then they get told, like, hey, go teach, and then basically they teach the way that they've been taught, so they don't read a lot of books around learning science or necessarily get didactics training and things like that. And then more and more institutions are starting to have more instructional designers on board, people that are trained in medical education rather than just medicine, right? And so there is a movement towards changing the methods, but they're still largely antiquated methods, and we obviously have a capacity problem. So we have a shortage of capacity We have a highly regulated, rightly so, highly regulated area,
Right.
especially in medical education. It gets a little more flexible once you get to nursing education. And we have outdated teaching methods around the world. And that's a bad combination because we have shortages around the world. So we really need to increase capacity and maintain or improve quality in many places. Many African countries, we have shortages of healthcare workers at various levels, and there is a shortage of medical schools,
Right.
and so therefore the medical schools that are there, are overburdened with students, often a shortage of faculty. And a lot of junior faculty and so on. And so therefore technology really presents a number of important opportunities
Opportunities,
to
yeah.
support these systems, and I can give you sort of briefly the four levels that we see in that where technology can contribute, but where technology always comes with a certain requirement for change, and technology alone isn't necessarily efficient. You can show you can throw a number of CT scanners at a healthcare system, but if people don't know how to use them, how to refer to them, how to maintain them, et cetera, then they're not going to add value to the system. And it's similar with
Right.
education technology. But the four levels where we work and see big opportunities for impact are, on the one hand, the existing workforce. If you talk clinics and hospitals and so on, bringing them new forms of education. And by forms, I mean kind of two things. On the one hand, useful formats for them. Much of medical education is in sort of e-journals, lookup tools, a lot of text and so on. And again, from learning science, so this is called dual coding in learning science, we know that people learn much better from videos, for example, or a combination of these formats. And a lot of students these days, they go and hunt for videos. But back to the hospital and the clinic, so our goal is to make affordable, very high quality, comprehensive training available to existing clinics and hospitals to help them maintain and increase their quality. Then level two then touches the education part, where you feed the
Right.
system and build new capacity. And they're working with nursing schools, clinics, nursing schools, medical schools, and also health extension worker training or community health worker training in many places. And there are significant opportunities to strengthen those systems in terms of their teaching. But just throwing videos at them is not enough. So just like in medicine, you take measurements from your patient, you need the feedback, you need the measurement to really optimize the diagnosis, get a proper diagnosis, come up with a treatment plan. And similarly in education, just throwing content out doesn't help much. Frankly, also it's been a problem in the COVID response because we've thrown a lot of content out, but we've not sort of, often equipped people with systems that they control to check whether their health system has actually understood, processed, and so on these contents. So sort of we therefore give these institutions not just content. We've produced a uniquely broad pool of content with faculty from top schools like Harvard, Yale, Hopkins, UCL, Imperial, et cetera. And then we co-produce with local experts in Ethiopia, for example, on equipment use and maintenance. But we also give them systems so that they can actually get the measurement and the results of the consumption of those contents. And by measurement, I mean both activity measurements, but also tracking understanding, and finally also tracking confidence, which is also an important piece of information, both for optimizing learning science algorithms to help with long-term mastery. In medicine, and this again is true as a fundamental point in education in general, we tend to teach towards summative assessment points, that famous exam. We cram before that exam, and then after that exam, we forget a lot. In learning science, that's called the Ebbinghaus curve. Right? So how do we shift that to a long-term mastery-oriented kind of approach? Because this as a doctor, the kinds of things you see every day, they're not so risky. You kind of know how to deal with them. Hopefully you classify them correctly, but some stuff doesn't show up so often, certain unusual combination of symptoms, etc. And you might have learned this at some point, but if you crammed it before an exam, you forgot it since, you might not come to the optimal diagnosis with this patient as fast as you. And obviously, we all know that this happens a lot in healthcare systems, even in very highly developed ones, in whichever country around the world. So that's a fundamental challenge in medicine. And so therefore, tweaking the whole educational process towards long-term mastery-oriented outcomes.
Okay, sorry, we have to take a break. He has really said a lot. We are talking about improving quality of medical education in view of the changes that COVID has brought around the world, and he's gone to talk about the relevance of technology, what is being done in Africa, other parts of the world, the use of videos and all of that. But let's take a break. And when we return, we'll have the conclusive part of this conversation. So much has been said by Stefan Wisbauer, the Co-Chief Executive Officer of Lecturio.com. He joined us from Germany. We'll be right back after this break. Hello, welcome back to Talk Here with Dr. Laz, your favorite health program on television, still reaching you from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. I've been discussing with Stefan Wisbauer. He's the Co-Chief Executive Officer of Lecturio, Lecturio.com, and they've been using technology to promote medical education, using a lot of resources and different aspects of training in medicine, nursing, and different aspects of medical education. Welcome back to the program, Stefan.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Thank you very much. Yes, you said a lot during the first segment, and so much. I wanted to ask some additional questions, but you've answered a good number of them. So now looking at what you guys are doing and what is happening around the world. In Africa, there is this challenge of internet penetration and acceptance of ICT, or information communication technology. But COVID-19 helped to change that. So now with Zoom meeting, I could talk to you from Abuja, Nigeria, and we're having this conversation. A lot of virtual meetings are taking place, and I'm sure that acceptance of new methods of learning, of course, has also improved. So you're doing some work with Ethiopia, with Uganda. What opportunities are there for medical schools and medical institutions in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think in Nigeria, same opportunities as everywhere, and that is to embrace the possibilities laid out by the new technologies that are available. You mentioned the ICT aspect. I'm not a deep expert in how well that looks in Nigeria, but fundamentally Africa has leapfrogged. We've built sort of broadband connections into all our homes here. And I have one in my own home, and it has a phone line. I have never connected that phone line, because I'm always on my mobile phone. And they think, in the Ethiopia project, and Dr. Lutz, who's with us, and Lutz, you're welcome to turn your video on, I was told in the chat, wrote a nice article where one of the students, kept on walking up the hill, downloading the next learning materials onto his phone or tablet, and then continuing to learn. And the next day he would go up the hill again and then download the next few hours of contents, So therefore, completely new capabilities that can now reach areas that couldn't be reached before, And then some countries like Rwanda, for example, already fairly advanced with internet penetration, but it's changing fast, and it's not dependent on fixed landlines. The mobile aspect is really transformative there. And then we try to build our technologies to make sure that we enable, for example, download capability on the mobile devices to facilitate that aspect, But Nigeria overall, I think, can benefit at all the four levels I outlined before, actual institutions, teaching institutions, and then the reconfiguration of the teaching and the reconfiguration of capacity building.
Okay, so that sounds good. Here in Nigeria, of course, we have the big cities that have better access to internet connectivity, but there are also medical institutions and medical training colleges that are located in areas that have, relative lower penetration of the internet. But yes, I could say generally there is significant use. Using mobile devices and also computers and all of that for medical training. I like the fact that you talked about biomedical engineering. One of the challenges we have in this part of the world is maintenance. A lot of times we buy these equipment mostly from Europe, China, and other parts of the world, more developed parts of the world. And when it develops a fault, sometimes you have to depend on engineers coming from outside the country to get them fixed. So do you think that Lecturio or the content within this platform will be sufficient to helping our biomedical engineers or people who want to become biomedical engineers to be able to help out in equipment maintenance in Nigeria and, of course, Africa at large?
Absolutely, it's a big topic, and if there is a significant breakdown, frankly, I think it'll be difficult to get around bringing in that expert
No,
engineer potentially,
no, no, I'm
depending
not
on how
taking
complex the
a
machine we're
second guest.
talking. But as it is in general manufacturing, I think it's the same in healthcare. Preventive maintenance is really key, and so the contents that we've produced there. This was also part of a GIZ project in Ethiopia that was ongoing on equipment use and maintenance, targeting both nurses and biomedical technicians, and both ensuring that the nurses understand how to use the equipment, and then the technicians understand how to maintain it as best they can. And we pick the typical equipment types that are there. So I don't think we will have them all complete as needed for Nigeria, but very much if one starts a targeted program with a city, with a regional government, or even a national one would prioritize the specific equipment types. Obviously, we would use what we have already created rather than reinvent the wheel, but also, co-produce with local experts the additional equipment types that might be needed. And then obviously you have all the foundational knowledge available anyhow. If you're talking about respirators, oxygen concentrators, things like that, all the physiology content and whatnot is also available to whoever is going to be using that equipment to help better understand what it actually does.
Oh, great. That sounds good. My last question for you is, right, are you open to having local instructors or teachers or professors in Nigerian medical schools producing content that could be accessible through your platform?
Absolutely. So that's what we're typically doing, i.e. complementing what, rather than reinvent the wheel. We have fairly comprehensive coverage of infectious diseases, some 200 videos, tracking questions, clinical case questions, all the rest of it. But, every locale has its own epidemiology and prevalence of the different disease types, and therefore might need additional disease types, might need more detailed on certain disease types, might have different treatment options available on even covered diseases. And then we produce, with the local experts on that. So, for example, on this equipment use stuff, it was kind of instructors from the local technical college in Addis. And we kind of co-create these with them. Our illustration team, the instructional design team helps prepare these things. We do recordings with them. We do post-production, all the quality assurance and so on, so that we efficiently, jointly create additional contents to make sure, the actual needs locally are covered without reinventing the wheel on the basics.
Wow, it's been a very great conversation, Stefan, and I really thank you for joining me on this program and shedding more light on what you do. I get the adverts on social media on what Lecturio is doing, and thank you that you responded greatly when I reached out to have you on this program, so that we'll see how more Nigerians, more Africans, and everybody around the world could leverage on this technology and improve the quality of medical training. Thank you, Stefan, for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lass. Much of it kicked off at a conference in Lagos. And so I hope to be back sometime and do some work with you in Nigeria.
Fantastic. We look forward to it. Be assured that Talk Health Nigeria is going to be following up with Lecturio, so that we could see how we'll get as many willing medical schools or training institutions in Nigeria to take advantage of these opportunities. All right. Bye. I hope to have you again on the program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lass. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. All right, that's Stefan Wisbauer. He's the co-chief executive officer of Lecturio.com. He joined me from Germany. Actually, my first guest from Europe. Okay, so this conversation will not just stop today. In our other episodes, we'll make out get more experts available. We're already talking with a number of leaders of medical students associations across the various medical science disciplines within the medical profession, to get to know the current situation of things within their medical colleges. They say garbage in, garbage out. If the quality is not good among our medical professionals, if the quality of training is not good, the quality of services will also not be good. And that's why we're really interested in this. So thank you for watching. I hope to see you again, same station, same time next week. My name is Dr. Laz Eze. Bye for now.